Hey everyone, Mike here. What you're about to watch is a clip from the DevOps Lounge stream. If you'd like to join us, then head on over to chat.learndevops.com.au. See you there. Hello, hello. So it's just me and you, Vince, at the moment. That's good for you, I guess. Or maybe that's a bad thing. Welcome to the DevOps stream for October 13th, 2021. Here we are again. Let me just get this microphone nicely positioned so the audio is nice and clear. Alrighty, well then, what was I going to cover today? So usually I would go over cloud news and stuff on Sundays, which involves going over AWS news, Azure news, GCP news, some cybersecurity, etc., etc. But I think today I'm going to shake things up a little bit, and instead I'm going to be looking at doing some Terraform stuff, looking at my account structure and some changes that I've made to my own account in preparation for making it a production-ready environment. But before I do that, I'm going to wait, just give people time to trickle in. How are you today, Vince? How's life for you? It's going to be an interesting one today. Yeah, I've been essentially decided to finally get around to codifying my Terraform, my AWS account for Ops Factory. So I've got around to the point of basically writing up code, importing a few resources, etc., which I'm going to demonstrate today. And then we will look at that code, and then I'm going to look at some AWS SCP policies that I've put in place, some AWS backup stuff that I've done. And then I might start off by provisioning the resources necessary for doing an EKS deployment. So that's going to be hopefully interesting for you guys. Vince says he's good here, might catch the whole show tonight. Awesome. It's is it late for you? That's the only problem, is with the time zone difference. It's pretty difficult to get the streams at a time that sort of gets most time zones. So I wonder what time it is for you. Let's have a look. Let me just redirect this chapo here over to job postings. So he says, all right, so it's 9:30 p.m. Is that late? That's pretty, do you reckon that's too late? Typically bed for 10. Okay. Where are you again, Vince? Are you in Canada? Toronto. Okay. Let me have a little look-see at the old savvy time here. So let's go with, so 11:30 is when the stream starts, which means in Toronto it's 9:30. So what I was thinking is I could bring the stream back to like a 10:15 start, which would be 8:15 p.m. in New York, 5:15 p.m. in San Francisco, and 8:15 in Toronto. What do you reckon? Bring it back to an 8:15 a.m. start for me. So bring it back by, what's that, an hour and 45 minutes? Yep. Same, you're the same. Yeah, same as New York. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you're aligned with New York, aren't you? Yeah, right. Okay. Well, it looks like it's just me and you, so that's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to pop over to VS Code here, which doesn't appear to be working. Okay, sorry about this. Give me a second. VS Code. What seems to be the problem? Ah, right, okay. So now if we pop over to VS Code, there we go. Fantastic. They're across the pond. Yeah, Keeson, welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining us again. All right. So, in fact, what I'll do is I'll pop into the browser first, and then I'll demonstrate what it is I've got going here. Accidentally fired up thingy there. So, Niskin, that's not my coffee. No, Niskin, it's not your coffee. It's instant coffee. Cost about 30 cents and it's better. Okay, so let's have a look. So as you can see, I've got a few accounts here on my AWS root that I pretty much need to get rid of. I just need to take the time to isolate them. So I don't know, hey Phil, welcome. I don't know if you know this, but when you create an account in an AWS organization structure, when you want to remove it, you have to set it up for essentially isolation. So you have to go in and to set up billing information. You have to do the full account verification process via SMS or telephone call. And then that means that you have to go through all that process and then you can remove it from the organization. And even then, there is a 7-day waiting period. So after you've created an account in an AWS organization, you have to wait 7 days before you can just basically take it out of the organization root structure. So these ones are all sort of me playing around. You see I created some of these very recently, created this a while ago. This Animals for Life was actually for Adrian Cantrell's AWS courses that I went through. Didn't go through them all fully, but these are the actual accounts set up for that. And then there's OpsKit, which is a product I was working on, and then Sandbox, Super Wishlist, and then User Poll. And these are all me playing around and testing around with various stuff. But what I ended up settling on was creating an OU called Projects, and then creating a top level one for Super Wishlist. So Super Wishlist isn't really anything to shout home about. It's probably even down at this point in time because I'm on a memory leak problem, but it's just this really silly, app for me and my family to just really easily manage their wish lists for birthdays and Christmas and stuff like that. And all it does is just allows us to set up a list, and then we can mark what we're going to buy, and then we can mark it as buy, but the person who asked for it can't see that item. They can't see that it's been requested for bot. So let me just log into it. I'm just trying to get into my Google account here. 1 second, just got to click on that link. I've gone with the old link-based authentication. All right, I'll just pop this in here. Oh, didn't work. Oh, there we go, my lists. All right, so it's just a really silly list app. It's nothing. Hey, Mushroom Majetti 7, welcome. Just a really silly list. That's all it is. There's my list. You can add items, so I don't have anything on mine right now. Various things on the list here. Various people within the family, etc. That's all it is. So it's a really, really simple, silly little app. And that's all it does. And so I want to put this on an EKS cluster so that I've got a management, a production ready workload. And that's it. That's kind of what I put up in there. So what I've done is I've created a project under this OU called Projects. And this will contain the EKS cluster, so a separate account. And I've decided to go with, instead, because I don't have any kind of federated login in any way, shape or form, what I've essentially done is made it so that I'm going to have a separate IAM user inside of here. I don't want to assume from the management account. I don't want to assume a role in there and then go to a lower level role in here, because it means sort of like using these credentials all the time. And I think that is essentially similar to the process of running as root all the time. Like when you work in a Linux or a Unix environment, you don't do everything with the root user. You don't do your day-to-day administration with the root user. Instead, you use a lower privilege user. So because I don't have any sort of federation or anything like that, I've decided to just create an IAM user in here. At the very top level here in projects, what I've gone ahead with is I've gone ahead with policies here. So if we have a look, we've enabled all of the different policies that can exist. And then there's backup policies, service control policies, and tag policies. So I've actually gone ahead and created something in each of these. So if we look at the backup policies, I've got backups bronze, backups gold, and backups silver. I've gone for service control policies. The full access one is one that gets attached automatically to every OU, so the root, the OU, and the account. And that enables the master account, the management account, that Ops Factory AU account, that enables anyone in there who's authorized to assume a full access role inside of the account and then manage it going forward. So that's sort of like your super user, that access that can go through. Here I've created a custom one called region lock, and then under tag policies, I've got backups, generic. That should actually just be called generic. So I'll correct that actually. We'll do a bit of Terraform and I'll correct that. And then another one called projects. So that's all I've done at the organizations level stuff. We'll look at the specifics in a second. And then if you look down at the actual accounts, projects, super wish lists, there are policies attached. However, they're the ones that are sort of inherited from the parent OU, which is the which is the projects one. And then you can see this full access one here gets inherited from root, and then therefore gets inherited from projects. And then region lock gets inherited from projects, and then the full access is attached directly as well. So AWS organizations and SCP policies are very interesting in how they're evaluated. So if you have a root OU, and then you have an OU underneath that just called projects, and underneath that you have project A. If you have a SCP policy at the top that allows something, and you attach it to the account and it allows something, if you don't also attach it to this OU here called projects, it's denied. So it basically works its way down a tree, and if it doesn't get encountered here, you get denied. So it can be complicated doing SCP policies, and it's very hard to structure them in a way that's very flexible and sort of works for most setups. So you're sort of locked in a little bit. And so sometimes it can be better to just do sort of allow all with then deny policies at the account level, because then you don't need to do it throughout the whole chain. You just put the deny at the lowest point that you need. So you can put a deny on the projects, and then as it goes allow, it'll go denied at the projects OU, and it'll deny it at the account as well. So that's probably the best way of actually handling. It's the default way of handling it. So that's why there's multiple full AWS access policies applied here, because they get inherited down the tree. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. The region lock one. So let's have a look at each one actually. So let's go to the top here. So we'll start with the backups. We'll start with the normal SCPs and then the tags and then the backups. So if we look at the service control policies again, we've got the AWS full access. Looking at that, we can see that it's literally ***, allows everything. If we look at the region lock one, all I've done is I've taken a pre-existing AWS best practices article, and I've essentially region locked to Sydney, and then you've denied everything that's not in this list. So we've used a not action in the actual IAM policy. So the not action says if it's not in this list, it's denied. Okay. Now the reason you've got to do this big list is because some of these endpoints are global, don't actually have a region assigned to them. For example, IAM is a global service, doesn't actually have anything assigned to it. Some services are specific to US East 1, which is New York, I believe, and some of them are just simply global, like S3 is global, for example. Route 53 is global. The organization's API and endpoints themselves are global. So you can't actually block them. You have to allow them through, otherwise you're going to have problems. So that's all this actually does, is it goes through, says anything that's not in this list is denied, unless the ARN is not like role super admin and the string not equals the requested region Sydney. So basically, if something's not inside of that list and the region doesn't match that, or it's not coming from, or the principal requesting it isn't that role, and you do have to have star there, unfortunately, then the request is denied. So this essentially locks everything down to Sydney, which is really, really nice. Let's have a look. What does Julia say here? This is pretty nice. Uptime-kuma. Okay, let me copy that link then. I'll pop that over here for now. We'll check that out. Thanks very much. Alrighty. Right. So that's the region lock. So that's at the, you'll notice that is at the OU level. So it's at the projects level. So don't do it at the root level. I just do it at the OU level. And the reason being is that if in the management account I want to test something, I can just go ahead as my super user, which I'm logged in as here in the top right, as you can see. I can just go ahead and create someone in London or Paris or New York or San Francisco by just spinning it up, basically. However, in the other account, I can't do that. So that's the region lock. Then what I've done is I've applied some policy, some tag policies, which enforce anything around tags. So this is more interesting as an SCP policy because it's actually a little bit more fiddly and a little bit more powerful as well, because you've got these operators here. But what I'm essentially saying here is that's just a key. It doesn't mean anything, sort of. And then I'm saying with the tag key, I'm assigning the value of project. I'm preventing any, and I guess we can look at this at some point in the future, but I'm basically saying that none of the child policies can do anything to change that value. They can't assign it, they can't append to it, or they can't delete it, they can't remove a value. And so the reason that is because, again, if we look at that structure and we have a look at this structure up here where we have let's have a look. Let's go to our AWS accounts here. So we've got our root structure here, and then we've got our project structure here, like that. And then we've got an account underneath. If you put a tag policy here, anything that has permission to then adjust the organization level tag policies here, and you might actually want your customers to be able to do that, for example, they can do requests where as the policy comes down, they're actually merged. They're not overridden or compared, or nor do they have to be the same for backup and tag policies. They're actually merged together, and then you get what's called an effective policy, which means that the end results, the effective policy, is actually what goes into place. So the reason that I've put here, operators allow for child policies, none, is because I'm preventing this key from being changed in any way. I'm doing the same for the tag value as well. I'm assigning these values, and I'm saying if the key name is project, the value has to be super wish lists, or it has to be development inside of the projects folder. Now, as I make new projects, my other project, super project, cool project, I'll come in here and change that so it can be one of those things. Or what I can do is I can remove this none here, and I can say you can append at the child level. So then at the child level, I can remove that. And then on the super wish list organization, I can attach a tag policy that actually appends to this list only at the super wish list account level. So then the effective policy becomes development and super wish lists only for the account, for the actual account tag policy itself. And then if I have a second account and I call that my cool project, I can then attach another tag policy to that one that again uses the not assign but the append operator to take the incoming list, which would just contain development from the project's OU, and I can append my cool project onto it. And so that would then be the two options available to me when I'm tagging resources with the project tag. And then down below, I'm basically saying I'm enforcing this for EC2 instances and EC2 volumes. You can obviously do more than that. Do DynamoDB tables, RDS instances, and so on and so forth. So that's probably something I'll end up doing in here, upgrading this. But that's essentially a very basic tag policy that I've put in place in order to ensure that I'm tagging things with the project keyword. What I would say is if you create a resource and you don't include the tag, and you essentially just ignore the tag and you don't put it on there, this does not enforce. It doesn't stop you from creating that resource. All it will do is it will stop you from doing any tag operations that don't comply with the policy. So if I create an EC2 instance with no tags on it, the EC2 instance will be created absolutely fine. Nothing will stop that. However, if I go in and I create attempt to then update the tags on there, and I create a project tag and it doesn't contain one of these values, then it will. Then the policy will actually then apply. So that's a pretty cool way of enforcing tags. This should actually just say generic. I don't know why it says backup generic. I think it's probably because I started calling it backups, but that's basically enforcing a backups policy tag that has to be either gold, silver, or bronze. It's enforced on instances and volumes. And then the reason it's meant to just be called generic is because I've added a second key in here called name. And I'm essentially just enforcing the name value on here and saying that I believe that this was meant to say that it can't contain nothing, but it doesn't actually work that way. So I need to actually adjust this slightly. I might even actually just remove it. Okay. So that's the tag policies. If you come up into backup policies then, so these are related to AWS backup. We've got various things in here. So if we look at gold, what we're basically doing is defining an AWS plan called gold in AP Southeast 2. We're setting up a rule called hourly. So gold is hourly, silver is daily, and bronze is weekly. And I'm just setting up a schedule. So basically that's just every day on the I think that's the hour or the minute. That should be 0. Yeah, that's the hour. So that's the 0 hour essentially, I think. So that's basically every hour throughout the whole day. 60 minutes to start. It's got 120 minutes to basically finish. Put it into cold storage after 7 days, and then delete it after 120 days. There's certain rules around how the distance between these two values could be 90 days, I believe. And then you've got the vault that you want to put it in, which is the manage vault. And then you use a selection. So basically you're saying the selections are tags. There's that backups policy tag I was telling you about earlier. The role that the selections process can assume so that it can actually go out and find resources. So that essentially gets assumed by the AWS backups service itself. So backups.amazon.aws.com. it gets assumed, and then that role gives Amazon AWS Backups permission to go and find resources based on these rules. And we're basically saying you're looking for someone with a key of backups policy where the value is gold. And then it means that these rules and this whole plan applies to that resource. So we can see in targets here, we've assigned this to the project's OU, which means it will be inherited down the stack to the next thing down the list. So that's a simple backups policy, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it for the policies. That's what I've gone ahead and designed. Let's go ahead and just make a change actually to the policy. So I've written it out here I've written it all out in Terraform, essentially. Oops. So that should be visible for you guys. You should be able to see that fairly clearly. If we come into SCP policies, if we come down here, we can see that I've got tagging generic, tagging generic, tagging generic, backups. So there should be oh, I see. Yeah, it's just called backups generic there. So we can change the name of that. We can come in here. We're in the master account, and we can do an apply here. Give that a second, starts doing some refreshing. And then therefore we can see that it obviously wants to update the organization's policy in place by changing a name to it. Obviously we want it to go ahead and do that. And we're done. All right, so that's updated that. Let's fix that problem, which is very nice. What is the overall... Oh, I like the way Dan's just in there and has automatically just got Uptime-kuma just up and running. Just in an instant, just like that, just like you do. You know the way you just do it. Damn. What you doing here, Dan? What's going on? Being a legend. It's not even in the chat. He probably can't even hear me. Been using it for a bit. I like it. Oh, he's been using it for a while. Okay. Well, give us some login details. I don't see anything. All right. So what I've done is I've organized I just realized that I should probably go back to the browser, shouldn't I? And I should probably go to like draw.io, create a new org layout, create, save. All right, let's have a look. I should probably visualize what this looks like. So we've got the root OU up here, which comes essentially automatically and free with enabling AWS Organizations itself. And then up here we've got the Ops Factory AU account, which essentially becomes the master account, becomes the management account. So we'll just give that a quick tag there. Boom. There we go. Because that's essentially the management account, and then of course that's linked into that. What I've opted to do is create a projects OU at the very top level here in order to actually encompass everything. And then underneath that, my intention then is to obviously work with projects. So the first one will be super wish lists. The only other account that I will have at this top level root will just be the Ops Factory AU eventually. Welcome Fraud, welcome back. But I'm going to obviously move to adding in other projects as well. So how does this look like from a Terraform perspective? So if we were to just move this over here like this, I have to keep checking the screen over here to make sure you can actually see what I'm doing. And then we just pop one of these in. Oh, that actually adjusts in here. That's good. Okay. So then if we do that and we do that. So if we look at these here, effectively, because the root comes in automatically. In fact, what if I just do this? All right, so if we look at this here, this is essentially going to be, what should I use for a Terraform state? We'll use this. So we'll just do TF state. So this is effectively going to be one state. So that's one state straight off the bat. And in that state, I'm managing this OU, the Ops Factory AU, and then I'm also managing all my sort of like SCP policies, tagging, tags, and backups, as well as creating that account as well. So actually, now that I think about it, that level is the actual Terraform state. All of that is the Terraform state. It's actually pretty hard to, yeah, that'll do. That'll do for now. So that's actually the Terraform state itself. And then I'm then creating these backup policies that I'm attaching to this very top level at this point in time. And then obviously by definition, they transition their way down due to their inheritance, because they inherit things. So this account then naturally inherits those things because that's how it works. So that's what I'm doing there. I'm creating a top level project. I'm inheriting, these things are getting inherited down. And so this is a TF state that essentially creates all of these things except for the root that just sort of exists. This is the management count. That's just a label. That's all that is. And so these things are managed. We've got users in here. This is an OU. This is obviously an account. Maybe I should make the line on this a little bit thicker just to point that out as being maybe an account. But then what I do is I change things up a little bit, and I don't actually then manage the rest of the account itself inside of this state. I use a separate state then, right? So let me just get rid of that. I'll just pop this on the end here so you can be like, that line sort of feeds in. That's the TF state itself for all of these resources. Then what I do is I have a second TF state where I do two things from inside of that state. I do one thing from within. Let me double check whether I actually now do IAM policies, users, KMS, SCP. I don't do SCP stuff. So actually that's not required. Let me look at the main. I'm not sure that's actually required anymore. So we create a KMS key, we're creating a user, we're doing a backups role. I don't even think that yeah, no, that's required. We've got a policy in place, attachments, data backups, okay. So what happens then is this is sort of obviously not a different account, it's the same account that gets fed into here. But this is, I then have a separate state file that I then use to manage this account here. Okay. And inside of here, I'm essentially creating a user, a U_user, and then I'm assuming that user. And then that enables me to then, from my Terraform code, it enables me to, if we pop over here, back to super wishlist, we go to main, we can get rid of that one. We can see that I access it here as a super wishlist root. I'm trying to explain this visually as best as I can. I'm using my master credentials in order to create the account, but then I've got to assume the role inside of here, which is the super admin role, which gets created by the organization's process automatically for you, right? That gets attached in there automatically. And that's that access or full access that I talked about before, the AWS full access role that gets attached in. So if we do AWS full, okay, AWS full access. That's a role that gets created automatically by, I suppose you could sort of say, the root OU, the organization, the management account, whatever is automatically creating that for you. What I have to do inside of this state is I have to assume that role. Otherwise I'm not going to be able to create things inside of that account. If I try and just use my normal root creds and I don't assume that role, I'm going to create the things in the wrong account. If I create a user inside of this TF state here, separate code base, I'm going to create it in there because of the credentials. So I have to assume the role over here. So I split that out into a second state file and I assume a second role. So let me see if I can demonstrate this through code, see if it's a little easier. So at the top level master account here, I'm basically just assuming my profile called Ops Factory root. And what that will give me access to is that Ops Factory AU account there at the top. Okay, so that will give me access to that. So therefore, anything I create takes effect inside of that account. So if I then come in here and I go users and I bring in and I import these users, they go into that state file using those credentials based inside of that AWS profile. Then in here, I'm creating the organizations themselves. So I'm creating the projects OU in here. I'm creating the super wishlist OU in here. If I was to have 10 projects, 10 organizations, this would then start to grow. Then if I wanted SCP policies to be attached to individual projects and individual things and this and that, this would start to grow and start to get a little unmanageable. It would start to get really complex and really big. So that's why what I then do is I create this second sort of state file that's still at the management level called super wishlist. And in here, I'm doing Ops Factory super wishlist as root, which is a separate profile, which is using the same root credentials, but just assuming the super admin role inside of this account over here. So this state is creating it, but then this state is assuming a role and it's getting access inside of that account. And then all I'm doing here is I'm then creating my u_user and giving myself roles, certain permissions. I'm attaching the power user to myself. And then there's just various other things in here with regards to, I'm pulling in the master remote state file. So I don't think I need to do that anymore. And then on the backups, I'm just enabling the backup service inside of the account. And then I'm doing the manage vault. Then what I do is a third state file. Okay, so this is still management level. But then what I'm essentially then doing is a third state file. But now I'm accessing _Crilly, which is actually a user. And so effectively I have a hard demarcation point here between what I can and sort of can't do. So if I put a solid bar here, that's u_mcrilly, that's a separate state again. So in here, that's allowing me to assume my root credentials, access this role and do management level stuff in here. But then the mcrilly system is then a separate state file, which is then allowing me to then manage the resources at the project level without using super user privileges. And obviously mcrilly can't go in that direction. You can only go in that direction. I was going to centralize it into a central users account and then sort of do like a sort of poor man's federated access and have a portal account. You probably saw the actual folder here. Oh, sorry, I didn't have the browser up. My apologies. So here I've created the demarcation point and then going into the super wishlist account, I'm assuming the u_mcrilly account. That's a separate state file again. And then that's allowing me to just manage things inside the account like EC2 instances and stuff like that. So if we have a look at that over here, if you then close that down, that's the account management. We come to projects, we come to super wishlist here, we go to EC2, and then I've just created a few EC2 instances in order to test those AWS policies. I was setting the name and the backups policy tags, I was setting the project tag and so on and so forth. And so all I'm doing is assuming that super wishlist access. And then I'm using that access to just create some instances inside of the actual account itself. So this basically creates a separation of concern from a credentials perspective. It means that in here, I can't go ahead and accidentally do anything at the higher level by mistake by using just simply root creds to have access to everything. It's not perfect, it's not the best, but it's the best that at my scale, which is a really, really time scale. All right, well, that's enough talking from me. Does anyone want to see anything with regards to this? If not, then I think what I'm going to do is just pretty much make a start on setting up a few VPCs and things in here and starting to clean up this account. Dan is sharing stuff here. What's he got going on here? Yeah, right. Okay, so this is Dan's uptime management suite. So his IPS spectrum is down, which is not good. But he's got everything else that's showing up. That's really nice, actually. I do actually need an uptime management thing. I use FreshPing at the moment, which is free. That's pretty cool. Let's check that out. So this is the project that Julius just posted in the chat there, which was this thing. Uptime-kuma. Good amount of stars. Now I've got an extra star. Let's have a look. Self-hosted monitoring tool like Uptime Robot. That's really nice. Wow, that's pretty gorgeous actually. What's it written in? Node.js, is it? Source, Docker. It's got a Docker container anyway. That's a good thing. Looks like it's ES. Looks like it's maybe in TypeScript. JavaScript. Yeah, that's fine. All right, cool. How do you run it? Let's have a live demo. So there's a live demo. Try 10 minutes live demo. All data will be deleted after that. Demo ends in 10 minutes. Okay. Billy password. All right, there we go. Added successfully. Monitors add one. Okay, HTTPS friendly name. Super wishlists. Superwishlists.com.au. 60 seconds. Let's ramp that up. Let's get that ramped up. Come on, son. Let's get that up there. Ignore TLS HTTPS upside down mode. Flip the status upside down to service is reachable. It is down. Oh my god, it's mental. Let's have a load. No tag save. It must be greater than 20. It's amateur. Absolute amateur. Right, okay, look at that. Simple as that. Status up. That's really nice. Dashboard up. That's really, really nice. I like it. I might actually run this on my cluster. Might run this on the cluster. That's really, really nice. But Uptime's a lot better than migrating from the solution. How does it collect the data? It polls. It polls the network. It polls the endpoint file. It will actually make a connection. It'll make a HTTPS request to the endpoint. Is that what you mean? Because it looks like it just handles HTTP. Oh, hang on. It does TCP port ping HTTPS keyword. What does that mean? Search keyword and plain or JSON response. It's weird. It does a DNS and it does a push. Well, like I know a rule of monitoring is it sucks to poll from what you are monitoring. It sucks to poll from what you're monitoring. You mean this system goes outbound. So this goes out and makes a HTTPS connection to the website, and it's either available or it's not. I have a host and I have a VM on the host that does my polling. Yeah. If you have I have a host support. So I think I understand what you're saying. Ideally, you don't want the VM inside the network to talk to the thing that monitors. I don't like that. I prefer for the monitoring system to reach out to the endpoints, and it can either connect or it can't connect. And if it can connect, it can then try and gather data, or it can't try and gather data. And that's either a problem or not a problem, rather than have the things talk to the centralized system. Is that what you mean? Sort of like which directions are going in? This is obviously going out. This is obviously going from in out. So this is going from Kuma out to the remote host, is what I would say this is doing. That's what I would say it's doing. It's really nice. I don't know what a push is. What's a push? You should call this URL every... Oh wow. You can actually have it just ping a setup notification. No way. Let's have a look. Telegram, webhook, Discord. Oh, very nice. Signal. Wow. Really? That's pretty impressive. That's really impressive what this can do. Well, I think we've got a nice little project here. It's a shame Dan's not on the line to hear it, but yeah, thanks Dan. I think we'll, Dan and Julia, sorry, I should say. I think we'll get this set up on the next stream. I think that's what we'll do next Wednesday, because at the minute I use FreshPing in order to monitor superwishlist.com.au, and although it's free and it emails me and stuff like that, it could be nice to actually have something self-hosted, so SMTP. Okay, so if I ran that inside of AWS, I could just use an SNS notification in order to SMTP that across to me from whatever domain I wanted. Excellent. That's actually really nice. Well, I like that. Like at Excelsior, I had a dedicated Iron server running Elastic Beats to ship that data to the Elastic Cloud. So if the host crashed, I would have data as to where, when, utilizing, etc., and the data was shipped to an endpoint outside the deployment being monitored. That also ensured that my alerts like Opportunity Page Duty would go off and be actionable. So you were collecting, but that sounds like you were collecting metrics internally and then shipping them off to something else to then monitor those metrics. Is that right? Rather than having something come in, collect the metrics, and then act upon them. And then if the system goes down, then the system that's pulling your thing inside the network can't connect, and then you get an alert. Or it can connect and it's very slow, or it times out, or it can connect and it pulls some stats that say the CPU is at 100% and has been for 15 minutes. So yeah, okay. Cool, it makes sense. That's really nice. Okay, I reckon next week we look at implementing this. Status page, no services, edit the status page, what's this? No services, add group, add a monitor, super wish list, add it in. Bloody hell, this is really friggin' nice, isn't it? That's really nice. Undefined, what? Undefined. It's undefined. That's really nice. It's really, really, really nice. You could offer this as a managed service, that'd be pretty simple. But dude has to be doing something right to have 3 million Docker polls. Well, for this, yeah, I would say it's pretty goddamn nice, actually. Without Docker, blah, blah, blah. Advanced installation, how to update, what's next. Screenshots. Oh, has it got latency as well? Oh, it does, yeah. Okay. That's really, really nice. It even gives you your latency, uptime, average response time. That's pretty much on par. Wow, just updates live as well. Damn. That's really nice. Okay, let's have a look at the Telegram notification sample. Motivation of self-hosted tool. Want to build a fancy UI. That was the motivation. He wants to build a fancy UI. Well, he definitely achieved it. Tried to use a WebSocket with SPA instead of REST API. Deploy my first Docker image to Docker Hub. If you love the project, give it a start. Discussion. Wow. Excellent. Can you support this? It's something that could possibly be supportable. Docker polls 3 million. Only 3 million. Oh, backers. Yeah, you can back it. Okay. Very interesting indeed. Yeah, you can sponsor it. Interesting. Is it? What? Hang on, it says, well, sponsor is funding Moose's work. One sponsor. Those goals to have 20 sponsors. 0%. Be the first to sponsor this goal. Oh, interesting. Really? We could do that. $5 a month. God. All right, I might consider that. I might really genuinely consider that. Okay, that's really awesome. So I think what I'm going to do within the organization structure is I'm going to do an EKS cluster for super wishlist, but I'm also going to look at getting this set up as well. That could actually be a really nice thing to also throw on the same EKS cluster. Is I guess I wouldn't have it monitor itself. So I'd have to put it in maybe a separate account in a separate region. Maybe have it come out from another region, such as from Japan or somewhere else relatively nearby, and then have it come into superwishlist.com.au and monitor it from there. I think that would be pretty nice. Alrighty. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Don't have any viewers today. We've got 5 today. Not sure how many is on the old Google YouTube Live. Let's have a look, see if we've got any numbers. Let's have a look. Asking me to sign in to see my channel. That's odd. That's really odd. Because now I was just literally signed in. All right, let's see if we can see this. See my old channel here. We're currently live. Yeah, show me this. Okay, maybe 1 viewer. All right, cool. Well, that's basically what I'm working on at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm working on codifying my AWS account and ensuring that I start doing everything with Terraform for my own private stuff. So what I need to do in here next is I'm going to need to do VPCs. I'm going to need to do subnets, .tf, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to have to do stuff in here. I'm going to use EKSCTL to actually spin. Whoa, that went a bit crazy. That went crazy all of a sudden. I'm going to have to do, where's my browser gone? Which browser were we looking at? It was this one, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, so we're going to be looking at EKSCTL to get a cluster. In fact, I don't want to override that window. EKSCTL. I like the demo that it had available to it as well. Like a little 10-minute demo. That was really nice. So we're going to be looking at this as well. So we're going to be running through this in order to create a cluster. I have actually been playing around with it, and I do have a cluster on the go already. Sorry, I do have a config on the go already. Let's actually have a quick look at that. I think it's yeah, I have this one. It's very simple right now. And as you can see, I already started here with regards to the EKS cluster.yml file, but I already started here with this infrastructure directly. Infrastructure, and I was going to start writing out the Terraform code here, and then that prompted me to go back and sort of go, well, I need to codify the rest of my AWS accounts and stuff like that. So in here is sort of where I may then look at bringing in that project. So instead of operating it out of here with these files in here, what I might actually do is lift and shift that out of this repository into a separate repository, into that other one, and then that's where I manage the access to that account, and that's where I actually build the EKS cluster from there. Once in place, it'll then be a case of getting Flux on the cluster, so I can then do GitOps. I can then use that to then push out Helm charts and get Flux to then pull in those Helm charts and provision them all for me. And then it's a case of learning to lock down that instance and then start getting services and databases and ththings like that up and going. Persistent volumes for the database, monitoring Prometheus Grafana so I can monitor the cluster internally. And then it's about integrating it then with a lot of AWS's managed services. And the end goal being having a production workload based on Docker, based on EKS, that can then be used by us to essentially learn some of these deeper AWS DevOps concepts going forward in the long run. That's what we're looking at doing. All right, we've got 10 minutes left. So if there are no questions, then I'm going to go offline. No? All good? Does anyone want to see anything in particular in a future stream? Bit disorganized today, I do apologize. Still trying to find my feet with the stream and sort of what I want to cover, etc. Like to see some GitLab? Okay, Adrian, no problem. Anything more specific, like project management, CI/CD? There will be CI coming into it, without a doubt. CI/CD, okay. So once I've initially written this code, because I'll be using Flux to manage the EKS cluster, there will be there'll be an element of CI/CD, but it'll be in the form of Flux, which reads from the cluster, looks at the repository, sees a change and pulls those changes in and processes them on the cluster for the cluster. So you won't see, from that perspective, we won't be able to see any GitLab CI/CD. However, what I can do is I can create another account, and then I can create another account create another account for the Kuma uptime, deploy that into a VPC in another region, and then we can codify that, and then we can fully CI/CD that using GitLab CI/CD, so that the Terraform runs and builds everything in the CI/CD, and we can make changes and so on and so forth. And so I think that will probably be useful, probably get you what you want to see. And then I think that would be a good start. So I reckon let's have a look at some AWS regions. I wonder what region I should pick. have a look. All right. I was going to say, why have you got these dots here? You don't have anything over there. That's fine. So region, and you've got edge locations. Okay, so edge locations in Perth, and that's probably Sydney and Melbourne. It's a bit big, isn't it? It's pretty hard to actually read that. It's even harder for you while I'm that big. Can I read? Yeah, I can't do that. Okay. Shrunk myself there. So Osaka. Okay, so I could put myself in Osaka, or maybe Tokyo. Tokyo's got 4 availability zones. Wow. Okay. That's interesting. Move your big head. I know. Look at that, man. Just like, whoa. Can fly around the screen. Singapore. Okay, I reckon we should probably look at Singapore as being the region of choice, I think. Osaka, Mumbai, Hong Kong region. Regions. I'm just going to look at what is geographically closer on approve. So obviously we've got Tokyo here. I reckon Tokyo would be fine. I think that's probably no, Singapore's geographically closer actually. And they do have a Singapore region with three AZs in it. Okay, launch 2010. Wow. I reckon they actually put a region in Singapore before they even came to Australia. Quite interesting. So I reckon then we go with Singapore. We'll dump a VPC in there. We'll dump a couple of... that's interesting. I don't want to run an entire EKS cluster just for Uptime-kuma. I might just run... I wonder if it can be clustered. I guess it could be if it's just pulling from a database, right? Notifications, simple stat, multi-languages, 20-second interval, simple status page, ping chart, certificate info, how to install, update uptime, name uptime. I wonder where it stores stuff. It's okay if it runs on a single instance. If I just have backups in place, just get it snapshot once every couple of days or so. Wouldn't be that much of an issue. But I wonder if it's possible to... doesn't have a website. It's the wiki. Okay. Pronunciation history. Cute. All right, well, it just runs in a Docker container, so I assume it has some sort of... what's that there? Click here. Oh, yeah. Volume create. So it's going to be pushed into disk, maybe. Required tools, Node.js, PM start, server, browse to advanced installation. Oh, hang on, I didn't see that. Okay. Install via CLI, advanced installation, Docker, browse, change, Prometheus integration, self-development environment, system how-to. Please use local volume only. NFS not supported. That's fine. Without Docker, recommended for exit only. I don't really care. I'm happy to use Docker. Docker Compose example. One, in case deployments is provided by contributors, I have no experience with KH and I can't fix first. Okay. Install on a Synology NAS. Could actually do that. We've got a couple of NASs here. Experimental. Let's have a look at this 404. Okay, that's a nice 404. That'll be over here then. Docker Compose. It's got probably be in here, won't it? Yep. Okay, that's what it's going to spin up. Uptime, image, container name, volumes. Interesting. So is it using, it doesn't look like it's using any form of sort of relational database. Assets, layouts, mixed into pages, components, assets, router, util, main.js. Let's see what it imports from Toast, view, app. There's a lot of front-endy stuff here, so I'm wondering whether that is all front-end stuff. Data. Okay. DB, didn't see that there. So SQL, so there is SQL here. Okay. Right, so it is using a SQL database. Patches, kuma.db, SQLite. Oh, it's going to be using SQLite. Okay, that's fine then. That actually makes it sort of easier in a sense, because all I've got to do there is just make sure I've got decent snapshots of that EBS volume. So this could actually run on a really, really small instance. It just means it's not HA. Unless it did say it doesn't like localized volumes on NFS, so I couldn't use AWS EFS. And you wouldn't want to do that anyway, because if the app's not purposefully designed to run in a multi-head environment, then that means that it may have race conditions. Okay, that's fine. I'll just run it on one, and then I'll do a simple EC2 instance running locked down. We'll use Ubuntu. Guess I could use App Launcher. Could use AWS App Launcher, I guess. But I don't think it's horrible. App Launcher, code from Scalable. Backing up the database would be a problem, I think. That's probably for stateless apps, whereas this is technically stateful. All right, we'll go with a flat EC2 instance. We'll pop it on a micro or a small, a T3A, AMD based or ARM based. I think T3A is at ARM. Are they ARM or AMD? I think they're AMDs. And then I'll keep it nice and small. 10 gig disk would be fine, or the minimum, whatever the minimum is. And then we will get that pointed at superwishes.com.au. Okay, that sounds like fun. I think that's going to be really, really interesting. I'll get the code written and then we'll go over that again. We'll go over that together next Wednesday. Alrighty. Let's put my big head in place here again. Okay, my big head's in place again, I'm afraid. Sounds good. Thanks. You're welcome, Adrian. No problem whatsoever. Alrighty. Well, in that case then, I think that's good for today. Sorry it's been a bit sort of like hazy, bit rough, but I'll have a better plan in place. I'm just trying to find my feet with regards to the roadmap that I'm designing, and then I'm going to get on that roadmap and we're going to go through it, and we're going to build some production grade environments together, and then we're going to use those to learn some stuff, to learn some AWS, some Kubernetes, some CI/CD, Terraform, so on and so forth. Maybe even take a look at SaltStack as a replacement for Ansible, if we feel that's a good idea. All right, thanks very much, everyone. All the best. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you have any questions, then feel free to just pop into the questions to ask it any further, or pop into the relevant channel. Awesome. See you later, everyone. Very nice.